This is one of those movies, and we talked about it gets better with every viewing. You kind of catch all these little nuances. Like for this one, like I noticed, like he kind of tied in a little bit with Inglorious Bastards, the Italian movies that he did. The director was Antonio Margheriti, like Antonio Margheriti.
It does feel like a more mature Tarantino. It is. I mean, it's still self-indulgent as he's wants to do, but I enjoyed it still. In the the kind of in between the nuance of the daily lives of these characters, and you can see how much Tarantino loves telling these stories. It really comes through the screen. I feel like we need some like 70s music to like bring us in right now.
Like I've been wanting to review a Tarantino movie, so I've been chomping at the bit.
Yeah, this is kind of like a summer movie, right? I mean, it feels like a summer movie.
It definitely does feel like a summer movie, but not quite the Tarantino movie I wanted to review, but whatever.
Yeah, it's still pretty good though. All right, well, let's hop into it, man. 3, 2, 1. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Nightcap. What's up, dude? How you doing?
Well, welcome back. I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great.
Cheers.
Yeah, like I said, been chomping at the bit to review a Tarantino movie, and this wasn't really the one I wanted to review. I wanted to review Death Proof, which I believe is still his most underrated movie.
Oof, about that.
So underrated that even Quentin Tarantino himself underrates that movie.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. Maybe we'll save that one for one of these days. We'll put that one on the back burner, and we can have a little debate on that one. But instead, what are we doing? What are we doing today?
We are doing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which I have been wanting to revisit because, before the pandemic hit, like I pretty much watched all my movies like on flights, and I watched this movie on my flight back to Italy, and I remember I enjoyed it, but I never got fully involved in it just because how can you really get when you're like kind of uncomfortable in a plane,
Yeah, and there's so much noise like going on and stuff. It's kind of distracting. So yeah, it's kind of hard to like get fully immersed in it. But what do you? It's another rare day cap edition. We're filming this one during the day. What are you drinking?
I am drinking my 8th goddamn whiskey sour.
You gotta have 8?
3 or 4. I'm a goddamn miserable drunk.
It's like much like Rick Dalton. You have an alcohol problem, huh? Right on. I'm just drinking some cold brew today, so let's keep it easy. But this is your first time in the show. Feels. Sorry, let me start that over. What do I say again?
Line.
This is your first time watching the show. I'll go ahead and put up our grading system right now so you can see how we break down movies. We like to dive deep into these movies and give them a numeric score at the end, so stay tuned for that. Also, if you're so interested, I'll go ahead and put up our Instagram handle as well, so you can find us there and keep up to date with us, what we got going on. And also, please feel free to hit the like and subscribe button. Does us a favor with the old YouTube algorithms. We just really appreciate that. And then also too, leave comments. Let us know what you guys think as well in terms of this movie and any other recommendations you guys have. We always look forward to hearing your guys' feedback. Absolutely. But Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, man. Let's get into it. This story, we were kind of talking about it right before we hopped on. For me, it really kind of it was like a pleasant surprise, but it wasn't what I expected.
What were you expecting?
Well, I mean, the buzz kind of coming, around this movie before it came out was that, Tarantino's doing a movie about, the Manson family. So I'm thinking, okay, wow, I'm expecting like a lot of violence, a lot of crazy action. You know what I mean?
You're expecting a typical Tarantino movie.
Yeah, exactly. And, with Tarantino too, I'm expecting to be kind of shocked, at some point and surprised.
Absolutely.
And that movie didn't really deliver in terms of that, but I think the movie still delivers. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a buddy, not a comedy, but it kind of follows, you follow in Brad Pitt and Leo's characters,
right?
As their kind of careers as actors, and kind of at the end, or at least at a turning point in their careers. And then we're also following Sharon Tate, Margot Robbie playing Sharon Tate, and where her career and her point in her life. And then we get this kind of alternate history. So yeah, I don't know. It's a good movie, but at least initially, I think maybe I wasn't the only one too. Initially, I think it kind of like I don't know. I felt like I kind of got dealt a curveball like the first time I watched it.
Yeah, absolutely. When you think Tarantino and then you think it's going to be a Manson family movie, you're like, okay, this is tailor made for Tarantino, right? And
Hmm.
it totally takes you to like, to another like outer field. And then you're like, but it's still a good movie. Don't get me wrong. It's about like, it's the twilight of this has-been's career, Rick Dalton.
Yeah, bad news,
Excuse
old
me.
buddy.
Excuse me, Rick fucking Dalton. And
Hmm.
during like the tail end of like the golden era of Hollywood, and it just kind of threw in the reimagining history of the Manson family, which it was pretty much more of like an afterthought, if I want to say.
Yeah, much like Tarantino's want to do, right? Even with like Inglorious Bastards, he kind of
Hmm.
gets to tell his like version of an alternate history,
Right.
where in his world of it, and the setting is perfectly Tarantino, right? 70s. It's a movie
Hmm.
about movies, which he's a big
Totally Tarantino.
cinemaphile, and so it's very Tarantino. I mean, what movies don't have his big stamp imprint on it? And he's
Hmm.
very recognizable director. But in terms of story, would you end up giving it a 1 out of 10 in terms of
I
just
gave it a
pure
seven.
story?
I gave it a 7 out of 10.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I give it a 6, so we're pretty close. It doesn't have a typical plot, It's not really like a true like second act. So I kind of struggled a little bit. But
Hmm.
with so much of like Tarantino stuff, it's kind of like the in between. It's
Right.
got these lives kind of running parallel, and then at some point they intersect. But from a lot of part of the movie too, I mean, it's kind of like a day in the life of these like struggling actors, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Like you see, like not the glitzy life of Rick Dalton, but then you see like just Cliff Booth's life of just him being like what he said, pretty much being a gopher for him now, like his driver, and not really doing any of his stunt work anymore because of like his little backstory of like no one wants to do work with him because he allegedly got away with killing his wife.
I'm on the worst boat with the worst guests, having the worst time.
Oh, you don't want to fight now?
Because I want to fight. That scene is just so great, but it's like so much of Tarantino, right? It's these you don't really remember so much the overall plot as much as you remember these like really intense moments and scenes.
Yeah.
They kind of stick with you and they kind of like resonate with you after you're watching the movie, and then you kind of replaying them back. And yeah, I mean, that's here on this one. There's a lot of great moments. One part that kind of sticks out to me is like the trailer scene, right, where Rick's having a bad day on the set, and he has like a little bit of a meltdown, right?
He has it pretty much anybody has had that scene that they replayed in their lives. Pretty much that's me after every date. Like what do you like speaking like a baboon? Like I'm a goddamn miserable drunk. Oh, it was so good. Like that. I watched that scene like over and over when I rewatched it like yesterday. It's just hilarious.
Yeah, Leo does a great job. He gets the comedic side of this whole story. You know what I mean? And that part where he's like, "That's it. We're never drinking again. That's it." And he just goes and like, yeah, exactly, like involuntarily starts taking another drink. God, it chucks it across.
He doesn't get enough credit for his comedic timing. Well, Leo doesn't. So want to
Yeah,
throw
he,
that
he
out there
totally got the
too.
character. And one thing I'll say too, and I don't want to get too much into performances because we'll save that a little bit too. Is Brad
Yeah.
Pitt too. He's a really good like sidekick actually in this movie. He's
Hmm.
not really the main guy, but he plays it so naturally. And I think that's one thing too about him in general. I think he's almost a better sidekick at times than
The
actually
leading
like the
man.
leading guy.
I could,
Yeah,
yeah, I
he
could
seems
see
he
that.
seems more comfortable in that space. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I could see that.
All right, well, let's get in like just touch on production. For me, really too, the setting itself, it's called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in
Hmm.
the 70s or in this time frame in Hollywood. It's really a character, and you can't really ignore the music and the radio, right? There's so much
Right.
driving in this movie, like is
Yes.
leaves a big imprint. And it's kind of cool the way Tarantino did that too. It's like a natural soundtrack, to the events going on.
Yeah, because honestly, well, we know because we live in Southern California, driving is a big part of our culture, if you want to say culture. Because, like, honestly, if you probably want to do a super cut of like Cliff just driving around in this movie, you could probably it's probably like 5-6 minutes long. And I'll give the production like props because any period piece, even though it's like this is 60s, tail end of the 60s, 70s, it's still gonna give a little bit more difficulty in terms of, like you said, sets, wardrobe, like, places. So I got to give props for that. I only gave the production 16 out of 20 just because I knocked it down because unlike you, I this soundtrack wasn't up to snuff with a lot of other Tarantino movies.
Really?
Yes,
Wow.
yes. Because Tarantino movies, you're like, all right, it's gonna have a banging soundtrack, and this one, it was memorable for me.
Wow, I'm really surprised on that one. I actually really
Mm-hmm.
like the soundtrack.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I'm really shocked on that one. It has so many great songs. I'm kind of taken aback right now. I feel like I don't know you right now.
Well,
All right.
agree
Well,
to
I
disagree.
gave it a 17. I thought the soundtrack
Okay.
was great. So we're not that far apart, even though we may differ on that. But the wardrobe and the just the neon lights and just the the different sets and stuff. It was, I don't know. I really enjoyed it. It was really
Mm-hmm.
great. The movie looks great. Classic Tarantino style. So I don't think anyone's going to be disappointed there. Let's get into the performances though. In terms of
Okay.
acting, what'd you end up giving it?
I gave it a 28 out of 30. I had to give it this
Wow.
high. Yes, because it's a great ensemble cast, right? But come on. I gotta give Leo was a beast in this movie. I mean, he was doing acting inception, guys. He was acting as a bad has-been actor, and then he's playing a bad has-been actor, acting a brilliant scene in that bad guy saloon, and
Mm-hmm.
then goes back into acting as Rick Dalton, like almost in tears because he had a great scene. And man, you know what? Everyone likes hot takes, right? Here's a hot Leo is the actor of our generation. All right, there. I said it. Was
Man,
he?
he's played so many roles. I mean, I don't think you're too far off. Yeah, I think he
Yeah.
does a great job, and I kind of touched on it earlier too. I think Brad Pitt as the stuntman again. Shout out to
Mm-hmm.
Death Proof, right? We got another stuntman in here. Uh, he played a great job too as the sidekick, and you believe him. You kind of believe his history, his kind of like nonchalance, like kind of like go with it attitude. You can see him in this world. He fits perfectly.
Right.
And he's kind of like the yin to, Rick Dalton's yang, whereas like Dalton is like super like bipolar and all over the place. And one minute he's up, one minute he's down. Cliff's character is more
Right.
like really just
Steady.
kind of go with the flow, easy breezy, right?
Yeah, steady. And it doesn't hurt that he was excellently written in this movie also.
What'd you think about Margot Robbie as Sharon Tate? I mean, she
I
doesn't have a
mean,
lot of depth to her, you know what I mean? They
yeah.
really just try to make her super likable. She's kind of, dances her way through the whole movie, dare I say?
Yeah, pretty much. It's obviously like she's almost like a background character because you're so laser focused on Rick Dalton and Cliff Booth that I don't want to say she was a throwaway because obviously she has to be in this movie because it ties in with the Manson family. So, but for what she did have, it was serviceable. Like I liked how she went into the movies to watch her own her own movie that she's in, and then she was like thrilled about people laughing at her scenes and enjoying her performance. So that was like a nice little thing that they threw in there.
Yeah, where they're kind of at the back end of their career, or at least the turning point. She's like at the beginning of hers,
Mm-hmm.
and you can just see like that kind of youthful, like joyful, like I don't know what you call it, like just kind of innocence, where she just wants to
Right.
see herself, and she's kind of points out, "Hey, I'm in this movie," to
Mm-hmm.
the ticket takers and stuff like that, and it's really kind of cool to get that contrast and vibes, and the movie itself is kind of fun. You know what I mean? Like
It is.
in Tarantino, I was ready for like that hook. You know what I mean? Like that unexpected scene where I'm just kind of getting shocked. You know what I mean? Like I can't believe this is happening right now,
Yeah.
and it kind of plays off of it a little bit, like the scene where Cliff goes to the old Western, the Swan Ranch, and you're
Right.
thinking like, oh crap, something bad's gonna happen. But
Yeah.
then it doesn't really, it kind of like pulls the rug out from under you, and then it doesn't really play out that way. Instead, he ends up like kicking that hippie's ass.
Yeah. He was just like, fix it. He's like, fuck you. And then he's like, all right. And he just proceeds to beat his ass. No, stop. He's a flower.
That's right. He is a flower.
Oh,
I
man.
will knock his teeth out.
One more step and I'll knock his goddamn teeth out.
Yeah, I mean, again, like I said, this movie really kind of just threw me for the first time I watched it, threw me for kind of like a loop because I just wasn't expecting that. I was expecting a lot more intensity, like in terms of like the violence
Right.
stuff that you're used to with Tarantino. But after watching it again, actually, the more I've seen it now 3 times, the more I've watched it, the more I like it. I actually kind of appreciate it for what it is and the story he's trying to tell versus what my expectations were. Then that contrast there. But in terms of other performances, the only performance I kind of wasn't too crazy about was Damian Lewis as Steve McQueen. I didn't really quite buy it, and like the kind of wig he's wearing and stuff. I didn't really get that vibe. I wish they kind of would have gotten maybe someone else. And then I know he's also gotten a lot of criticism, Tarantino, for the Bruce Lee scene. What do you think about that?
Yeah, like that was supposed to be the controversial scene here, but I think I don't know how I feel about it because you don't know a lot about what Bruce Lee was like in real life. Maybe he really was like an arrogant prick like this that thought that his hands were like lethal weapons. I like that line. He's just like, if I accidentally kill you, I go to jail. And he's like, well, that's anybody. It's called manslaughter.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like I said, I don't think it was, people portrayed it out to be super like disrespectful. I didn't think so, because it's not like he like totally like kicked his ass or anything, or like made him look like a fool. Like Bruce Lee got a kick in there, and he just got tossed because he's obviously fighting a bigger guy. So I
Yeah.
don't think it was that disrespectful that they blew it up to be how it was.
Yeah, I see it. I guess just because so many people kind of gush over Bruce Lee, and
Right,
everything that
right.
he's
He's
kind
an
of mad.
icon.
Yeah, he's definitely an icon, and so this one wasn't totally flattering, and so I guess
Hmm.
for some people they just maybe felt a little uneasy about that. But yeah, I thought it was fun, the whole scene there,
Yeah.
and it's again, like this movie, it's not really about the total like plot of this. It's really about these little in between scenes and that whole
Right.
fight scene that they have, and he throws him into the car, and then Janet, stay away from Janet. She shows up. It's like,
It's
what
like,
the hell
what the
happened to my
fuck is
car?
going on? Oh man.
Kurt Russell, he's so great too in this too. You just totally believe him in these world. But let's get into the directing, man. What'd you give it in terms of in directing? Or actually, did we give our scores for the acting?
Yeah, I gave it a 28, and you were kind of surprised by that for whatever reason.
Oh yeah, my bad. I give it a 25. So I thought it was
Oh, okay.
solid performances. But
Right.
I will say, like Sharon Tate, she's or Robbie is a Sharon Tate. There's really not too
Mhm.
much there. She's like
No,
she's
she
handled
couldn't
so
really
kindly
show
that
off anything.
yeah, you
Yeah.
can't really get into her character. It's really about Pitt and Leo in this one. You kind of carrying the load.
Right.
They did a great
Absolutely.
job. But let's go ahead and get into directing. What'd you give it in terms of directing?
Directing, I gave it a 25 out of 30. Out of all his movies, this one definitely felt the least like a Tarantino movie. At least vibe wise, until the very end. Until the very end, you're like, yeah, this is a Tarantino movie.
Yeah, it just
But
goes
other
off
than
the
that,
rails.
yeah. But other than that, it didn't have the usual lengthy, like rapid fire dialogue that Tarantino is known for. And also, unlike most of his movies, this movie was actually pretty damn wholesome. It's like we kind of touched on it. This is pretty much a movie about the friendship of Rick and Cliff.
Dare I
And there
say a
was,
more mature Tarantino here?
yeah, I would definitely back you up on that. And there was no, yeah, it's about their friendship. There was no betrayals. There was no there was a happy ending. There was no sad death scenes of like Cliff didn't die, and Rick ended up hanging out with like the power couple like in the next door, and like he still has his wife and everything. So yeah, I gave it a 25 out of 30. Even necessarily wasn't like the typical Tarantino feel.
Yeah, I give it a 26.
Okay.
In this case here, I thought as much as I like the performances, I feel like and with all of his movies, it's really about the world that he creates.
Right.
And even though I
The
was
little
kind of
nuances.
yeah, exactly. Even though I was kind of thrown off a little bit because I was expecting more like a Manson centric story.
Right.
I just can't. The movie's kind of charming in a weird way. Like
It
just seeing
is.
the day in the life of these guys and watching Dalton kind of like turn the corner in his career and Cliff Booth and all his adventures and all this stuff. And so it kind of sucked me in. That like I said, now that I've rewatched it a couple of times, I'm actually appreciating it more that I watch the more times that I watch it. And the gruesome parts are kind of there, albeit not as like extended as we're used to with him. But
Yeah.
if you pay your dues and wait the 2.5 hours plus,
Pretty
you get to
much.
see the
The
violence at the
payoff.
end there, and it's over the top, just like what you would expect.
Way over the top. Flamethrower over the top.
Yeah, and there's plenty of dirty feet as well. So if that's what you're into, much like QT, you get that as well. A lot
But
of
hey,
dirty feet.
honestly, yeah, all his movies, he definitely has a foot fetish, and it's just exceeding like at a rapid pace.
I know. Maybe in his private life, he's spiraling downward. I don't know. He's gonna end up in a shoe store somewhere sniffing
Like
one
Al
of the
Bundy.
shoes or something. Yeah, like Al Bundy. All right, but let's get to X Factor. What'd you give it in terms of X Factor, man?
I'm back. Well, I've been back. 10 out of 10.
Ooh,
All right.
he is
10
back.
out of 10. This is one of those movies, and we talked about it gets better with every viewing. You kind of catch all these little nuances. Like for this one, like I noticed like he kind of tied in a little bit with Inglorious Bastards when one of the Italian movies that he did, the director was
Yeah.
Antonio Margheriti, like Antonio Margheriti from like Inglorious Bastards. And yeah, and I'm biased because Tarantino is one of my favorite directors. I'm kind of pumped for whatever comes out from him, and I'm pumped for whatever 10th movie, his 10th and last movie, which I heard like was going to be a horror movie. So what even better way to end his like run as a director. So yeah, 10 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I give it a 7. Again, a lot of the parts that we touched on, I feel like it's gotten better the more times that I've watched it. It does feel like a more mature Tarantino. It is, I mean, it's still self-indulgent as he's, wants to do, but I enjoyed it still in the, the kind of in between the nuance of the daily lives of these characters. And you can see how much Tarantino loves telling these stories. You can really, it really comes through the screen. And yeah, overall, I really like the movie. Good recommendation. I think if you're expecting more of the shock kind of, insane violence of some of his earlier stuff, you might be disappointed. But I think if you actually sit and give it the time, you're gonna like this movie. You're gonna appreciate it. And even though the dialogue didn't have like maybe some of the more like standout parts that he's had in some of his previous movies, there's still some good dialogue there, especially between Cliff and Rick's characters.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like don't cry in front of the Mexicans.
No cry for. There's so many good parts. But yeah, it's in terms of total score, I ended up giving it an 81. What'd you end up giving it in terms of overall score?
I gave it an 86. Well, and I got a question for you. Do you think this is Tarantino's best or one of his best movies?
Man, I've been thinking about that. I'm trying to think, and he's got a lot of great movies that I love. One movie that he didn't direct, but he wrote, is one that I also kind of included in that grouping, is True Romance. Yeah, that's another movie that I think is a great movie. Maybe one of these days we'll touch on it. I don't know that I can say that it's my favorite overall, but it's up there. I definitely enjoy it in terms of like return factor for me. It's actually pretty good. What about you?
I'm gonna put it in top 5, but I still can't say it's the best because I'm still gonna give that honor to Inglourious Bastards, because that movie was just phenomenal. That's one of my favorite movies, and I could go to that. I've watched that movie at least 6-7 times already. So
yeah, I mean, and one thing too, I mean, even it kind of gets lost in the shuffle now, but Pulp Fiction it was a game changer, and it's really a great movie. And it has a lot of great scenes as well. So that one, I mean, I don't want to say it doesn't get enough credit, because it gets a ton of credit, but even still, I think as his like filmography is growing, it kind of gets lost in there, because there's so many of them, and like the Kill Bills, and that's like 6 hours of Tarantino, you know what I mean? So it kind of gets lost in there, but man, I don't know. He's got a lot of great ones. That's one of these days, I think we're gonna have to do maybe a top 10 or rank all his movies. Maybe once he's
rank
done.
his movies.
Maybe once he's done, we'll rank them all.
Yeah, because right now there's 9, and obviously he said he's gonna stop at 10. And even like his worst one, Death Proof, I think is underrated. I put it in my top 5.
It's definitely down there on my list. It's rough. I don't know.
Even like Hateful Eight, that's universally not really liked. I recently watched like the 4-hour supercut on Netflix, and I don't mind it as much now, than I did when I first watched it in the theater. So, like I said, man, it's
I wish I had your stamina. Like watching it, I could sit through that. I don't know. I still haven't seen Hateful Eight, and most of the reviews and people that I trust, even like you, it's been pretty low key, like a low key recommendation. So one of these days I'll have to sit through it. And like I said, maybe we'll run through it and rank all the Tarantino movies. Yeah,
you watch Hateful Eight, and then I'll do Death Proof again, and then we could do a special underrated Quentin Tarantino movie episode.
All right. Well, let's shoot back over to the people watching. Let us know what you guys think. What did you guys think of this movie? Where does it rank for you in terms of Tarantino movies? Did it meet your expectations? Were you like me, get a little bit surprised? Just any comments that you guys have below. And what Tarantino movie would you guys like us to do next? That'd be cool.
Death Proof. Death Proof.
I'll leave it in the comments, but I can't hear you, but
yeah, leave a comment for the algo. All right, for the algorithm.
All right, guys. So please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button on your way out. Appreciate you guys watching. And until the next time,
have a great night.
Don't drink, 8 whiskey sours, okay?
8 goddamn whiskey sours.
All right, man. Cheers.